Hello, and thank you for joining us for episode 4 of Common Sense Commanders, a series by Security Squared. This episode is called Getting Complicated and continues with our journey discussing network diagrams. Please try to stay awake, make sure that you bring some caffeine, and we'll try to drive through this as quickly and efficiently as we can. So just to talk about a few items. All businesses, organizations, networks are potentially different. And we want to talk about what's next after the basics that we talked about in episode 3. So we're going to try to quickly cover asset labeling, cloud services, whether or not they are supposed to be documented in a network diagram. We will discuss multiple locations, and then finally remote locations, whether or not they need to be diagrammed. As you can see here, we have a network diagram called labeling, and every single asset on this network diagram has a label. The World Wide Web, which of course we have at the top here, www, it's the easiest one, but we are going to show you that, hey, ISP, Internet Service Provider, we've got a router, we've got a single public static IP address assigned to the router. That is directly connected to our corporate firewall. And as you can see there, it says brand. We do encourage that you show the brand as early and often as you can with every single critical asset that you have. We don't necessarily need to show it for laptops. We don't necessarily need to show it for other employee usable items, but it is very important to make sure that the core infrastructure has labels. This helps technicians and leadership members both make decisions and effectively function with troubleshooting. Finally, I want to highlight that while we have static IP addresses for the firewall, the switches both have ranges that they're showing. And then, of course, the corporate phones, instead of having every single corporate phone listed, you have the subnet that the corporate phones sit on, and you can see that they match to the switch above. And so you can have a corporate phone on any part of this range. In the meantime, the central printer, it has a specific assigned static IP address of 10.10.20.5, where the switch has a range for DHCP from 10.10.20.8 to 254. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is cloud services. And as you can see here, Microsoft Accounting Online, which we're highlighting with this green square, they are connected, and you can trace how they are connected through the World Wide Web to the ISP router to the firewall. This is the Office 1 diagram, and we just want to make sure that organizations do name their critical cloud systems. Oftentimes we will run into network diagrams that do not have them labeled. It has been determined that it's not important enough. It's been determined that they'll do it with a data flow diagram, or quite simply, it has been forgotten. And those are kind of critical items that you want to see on a network diagram. You want to see how a location connects to the cloud services. So the next thing we're going to talk about as well here are multiple locations. And we're discussing this, which is Office 1. And then we're going to simply talk or show you Office 2. And as you can see, this location, we've lost our cameras, we've lost our phones, we still have our cloud services up top, we still have a corporate Wi-Fi, we have our employee laptops which don't have an IP address because we are assuming that they're coming from the range listed here. The same thing can be said for the employee workstations, but our central printer, very similar to the previous location, has its own static IP address outside of the range. When it comes to documenting or utilizing network diagrams, if you have multiple office locations, it's strongly advised to create different network diagrams to show the different locations. Finally, we want to discuss, and we get this question a lot, what about remote locations? Right now, as you can see, Office 2, this is an office. It doesn't have as much as what we had in Office 1, where Office 1, you have corporate phones and a camera system, etc. But Office 2, still, we have a router, we have a firewall, we have Wi-Fi, we have a switch, we have desktops, we have employee laptops, we have a printer. The question now is, a remote location, what questions should we ask ourselves before determining whether or not we need to diagram a remote location? And so we're simply going to bring up these three questions that start the consideration for whether or not you need a network diagram. Did you have to purchase internet for the location? Because immediately you have a router in that case. Second question, do you have permanent assets like desktops, printers, firewalls, switches, Wi-Fi? If these are all systems that you've installed in a remote location, it is a remote office location. And yes, it should be displayed with or represented with a network diagram that you can display during an audit or assessment, and that you can display while training someone. Finally, and this question is always pretty critical, is the location residential? An office is representative of a business. However, many businesses have hybrid or even fully remote workplaces. Unless you have critical systems located at somebody's residential location, ultimately you do not need to diagram what they have there, because that could be additional information that we don't really want to share about somebody's personal life. What I'm going to do now is just kind of summarize what we discussed here today. Number one, label everything. This document is critical. Network diagrams are critical. Make sure you add your cloud services whenever possible to all of your network diagrams. Multiple locations, we advise multiple documents. Trying to fit everything onto one document is borderline insane, trying to maintain it on an annual basis or during any major changes. And then finally, remote locations, consider your assets, consider what you have at said location. If everything's travel, there is really no need to create a network diagram. Stay tuned for episode 5. We're really excited to talk about the next topic.